Have the Tigers fallen back to planet Earth? Plus, Skubal dominates again. This and much more next on Austin's Academy of Sports. Coming into Saturday's game versus the NL leading Chicago Cubs, the Tigers were 6-4 in their last 10 games, and we're on a little bit of a slump, I guess you could say, in Tigers. If you're looking at it as a Tigers point of view and a perspective that you're living in the Detroit area, watching these Tigers every day, you want to see a great brand of baseball being played. And they still are one of the best teams. They are the best team in not only the AL, but the MLB as well. And they're having a great season. But these last 10 games have kind of been a different part or different perspective of how you look at the Detroit Tigers for the Tigers. I mean, ever since the end of May, that last series at Comerica versus the San Francisco Giants, and then they go and play up to the Kansas City to play the Royals, and then they go to the south side of Chicago to play the White Sox, to AL Central opponents. But the last 10 games, like I said, going back to that point, have been an offensive struggle for the team. Their offense has struggled. Their best players haven't hit very well. And dating back to May 31st, that second game versus the White Sox of a 4-game series, and then the third game against the White Sox, or I should say second game against the Royals, and then third game against the Royals as well, they only scored 1 run between the 2 games. Yes, you heard me right. 1 run. They lost 1-0 in game 2, and then in game 3, they won 1-0. And in that 1-0 win, their offense really wasn't sparking at all. They scored 1 run on a wild pitch. It's classic offense that happens kind of when the Tigers were not doing their best in the 2020s, early 2020, 2019. They were just scoring runs on absurd plays like wild pitches, pass balls, offensive, struggles, I guess you could say. And these last 10 games have kind of replicated the past few seasons for the Tigers. They're still a great team, and when they are hungry, their offense shines. And from last season to this season, their pitching was phenomenal. Their pitching wasn't the best last season. Pitching has been phenomenal this season, besides, maybe the back end of the bullpen, I guess you could say, for A.J. Hinch's crew and the Tigers. But last season, the hitting was abysmal. This year, the hitting is kind of gone. Last year, the hitting was good, and this year, the hitting isn't, I guess you could say, to the Tigers' level. Still one of the best offensive teams in the American League. I wouldn't say the MLB, middle of the pack for MLB standings or statistics-wise, but their best players, this is when you kind of need your best players to stand up. And I'll dive deeper into that a little bit later into the show, but their last offensive outburst was on the south side of Chicago against the AL Central foes, the Chicago White Sox, 13-1 in game, I believe that was game 1. So coming from that 1-0 win in Kansas City to Chicago, they knew that they wanted to get some hits on the board, some runs on the board, and beat up on I guess you could say, bad White Sox team this year. Last in the AL Central, so they knew coming in that they needed to win this series. But they didn't win the series. Besides game 1, they did not play very well against the White Sox. 13-1 in game 1, 5 home runs from the club, 3 of which came from Kerry Carpenter, Kerry Bonds, as many Detroiters or Michiganders would call him. And he's a phenomenal player, but he's a platoon player. A.J. Hinch, for some reason, likes to take him out against he is a lefty, so that they like to take him out against lefties. And late in games, they'll sub in Andy Ibanez, They being AJ Hinch and his staff. And now Andy Ibanez is not there anymore. He's got demoted to AAA, and he needed it. Last season he was great. Kind of what Zach McKinstry is putting up this season. Zach McKinstry and Andy Ibanez maybe inversely flipped roles this season and the last season. And Z-Mac has been one of the most productive hitters on the team this season, and he's just been good. But the last 10 games, he's been slumping a little bit, and slumping for his category is 8 for 32 in the last 10 games. Yesterday against the Cubs, Saturday, whenever you're watching this, he scored the only one run of the game on a sac fly. He tripled, and then he scored on a sac fly. So the Tigers' offense needs to spark up a little bit, and you need your good players to step up. Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, and Zach McKinstry. Green, 9 for 38 in his last 10 games, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, and 18 strikeouts. Spencer Torkelson, 7 for 37, 2 homers, 5 walks, and 10 strikeouts. And then the aforementioned Z-Mac, 8 for 32, 2 triples, a double, 3 walks, and 6 Ks. But he has been a pest on the base paths. So AJ Hinch and his crew, they like to move runners from first to third, and they like to be aggressive on the base pass. And Z-Mac is one of those players that he likes to get in motion and send to swipe a few bags or two and run around those base paths to get those runs. That every run counts in baseball, as all the baseball fans on this podcast know. Every run counts. So last 10 games, hitting's been a little bit disappointing, which kind of brings me to my next point. Someone who hasn't been disappointing, Tarik Skubal. Best pitcher in the MLB. If you compare him to anybody else, good luck. In my eyes, not just a biased Tigers fan, he's just dominant. Unfair to hit against. He pumps about 100 miles an hour consistently every game, and he pitches deep into games as well. Last 3 games, he's gone 7+ innings. He's had 6+ strikeouts in all of those starts. And the first game, dating back to his last start in May, 25th versus Cleveland. And you know how Cleveland's lineup is. Pesky is all get out. They just continue to get on the bases. They have a couple Tiger killers. Steven Kwan, Carlos Santana, Jose Ramirez being 3 of them. It didn't matter for Skubal. Complete game, 13 strikeouts, and his last pitch, he pumped 102 miles an hour against the Guardians. 6-2 on the season, 2.16 ERA, which is 9th in MLB. 105 strikeouts, 2nd. He's got 6 wins, which is tied for 3rd. And he's got 83 and a third innings pitched, which is also tied for 3rd in the MLB. Just a great player. Running out of good things to say about him. He won the Cy Young last year, as all of you know. And this year, legitimate chance to win it again. Back-to-back Cy Youngs are rare. They're not too rare, but they're rare. And if you don't believe me, just ask all the hitters that he's faced. Interviews from different hitters from around the league saying that Skubal is one of the nastiest pitchers in the league. Ultra competitive. When he's off the mound, he's so nice to talk to. He's talked to Benetti, Andy Dirks on the Tigers play-by-play broadcasters. And he's just so nice to listen to. But when he's on the mound, he's a different self. Different human being. Screaming, being ultra competitive after striking out. And you're not going to, as a hitter, you're going to be living in the strike zone there against Skubal because all he does is pitch strikes. He's even said that if you're going to beat me, you're going to beat me in the strike zone. Skubal knows that he wants to be effective in the strike zone And these MLB hitters these days have good plate discipline. So if he extends a ball out of the zone, he's very rarely going to get them to swing and miss, unless it's on one of his nasty changeups or sliders. So Skubal, legitimate chance to be the Cy Young for back-to-back seasons. Again, not only to be the best pitcher in MLB, but also the best Tigers pitcher in the last decade. And you're comparing that to Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, Rick Porcello. Those three come to mind off the top of my head. Skubal could outrace all three of them if he just can bring a championship ring to Detroit. For the Tigers as a team, they are currently the best team in the MLB by half a game over the New York Mets, 1 game over the Chicago Cubs at 42-24. In the Central, they have a 7-game lead, which is why it's important, in my eyes at least, to get off to a strong start so you can afford to lose a few games here and there during the season. Because losing, it happens. I mean, you just lost a game to the Cubs, the best team. You split a series with the White Sox. You gotta get back on track against this upcoming series beginning Tuesday in the Charm City of Baltimore, Maryland. Skubal will be pitching in that series as well. And then you come home for Father's Day weekend for the Cincinnati Reds. So this week is pivotal to gain some more gain some more edge, I guess you could say, for the Central, which they already have, and the MLB standings as well. So let me know what you're thinking in the comments about the Tigers. Will they make the playoffs? Yes, I would assume. Will they win a series in the playoffs? Depends on who they play. And my last question is, will they get to the championship series, ALCS, for the first time since 2013 this season? Maybe. Depends on who they play. Tune into the team, Bally Sports Detroit, or FanDuel Sports Detroit, I guess you could say. They merged over. I should know that by now. Listen to Jason Benetti. He's a hoot on the call. And as always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Austin's Academy Sports. Have a great day.